I am the one and only Eagle Double T, and in this video, I'm going to be comparing the Super Nintendo Entertainment System to the Sony PlayStation. So, let's begin. Round 1. Controller. Both controllers were very innovative. The Super Nintendo controller, here I have an off-brand one. The D-pad was great. It introduced bumpers for the first time. Had a simple start and select button. And then it has the pattern that we're all used to. The A, B, Y, and X. The way that we're used to it being arranged. The PlayStation learned a lot from it. Really the only thing that they did different is, they put these things here so it fit your hand more like controllers that we're used to nowadays. And it had two bumpers. Or I guess you could call it a trigger, but it sucks. So the layout is about the same on both controllers. Sony learned from this guy. But they did later add two joysticks to this, and it became the DualShock. Both consoles have two controller ports, although the PlayStation did have a multi-tap adapter. So this was just a lot more simple than the PlayStation controller, but both are pretty comfortable. Because of the SNES's innovative controller layout and the fact that it introduced bumpers, it wins the first round of controller. Round 2. Discs versus cartridges. Now, let's start with the PlayStation. It uses compact discs. But the cool thing about this is that they were black. So, if someone tried to rip them off and put its data onto another disc, copyright, then, it's kind of hard to get a hold of a black disc. So, these things were pretty innovative. They also held a lot more than cartridges. Like, they could play much bigger games than the N64 could. But the Super Nintendo had a lot of great features as well. It had a Super Effects chip later included in some cartridges. So this boosted it, and it made it a lot better. And it was definitely a great feature for Nintendo to have, because it really helped them stay in the game with their cartridges. I'm calling it a tie because the SNES's cartridges, they use the Super Effects chip, which is very innovative, but the PS used discs that were innovative against copyright, and it was the first console to make discs a really big thing. Round 3. Competitors. Now, the Super Nintendo had the Sega Genesis, and the PlayStation had the Sega Saturn and the Nintendo 64. Now, the Super Nintendo came out on top of the Genesis with about 20 million units more than the Genesis sold. I think it was around 55 million units that the Super Nintendo sold. I could be wrong. The PlayStation sold, I think it was around 100 million units compared to the Nintendo 64's 32 or 33 million units. And the Sega Saturn's like nothing sales. So this definitely blasted away the competition. But the Super Nintendo, it will go down in history as being one of the most tough competitors in the console wars, because it and the Sega Genesis were neck and neck a lot of the time. Because of the PlayStation's ability to blast away all of its competitors, it wins round 3. Round 4. Games. Now, games make or break a console. Now, you don't need to buy a console if it has no good games. This is the problem the PlayStation faced, despite its amazing sales, which it didn't deserve. Because it really had no games, to be honest. I mean, it did have a few great sports titles, a few good racing games, Soviet Strike, and Crash Bandicoot. But let's face it, the Super Nintendo had all of those amazing 2D games that really beat the PlayStation's 3D games, like Super Mario World, A Link to the Past, Super Metroid, Star Fox. I could go on. there are way more games than this thing. And the games this one has, the Super Nintendo, are much, much better quality games than the PlayStation. So, yeah, SNES has way more games and way better quality games than the PlayStation. The Super Nintendo, with its amazing game quality, comes out of the 4th round on top, and with a score of 3-2, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System is superior to the Sony PlayStation. While a lot of people think that the PlayStation is a better console, I'd say the Super Nintendo comes out on top. Because of its amazing game library and very comfortable controller, I think it makes it a better choice over the PlayStation. So please like this video, comment what you think of this, whether you think the Super Nintendo is better or you think the PlayStation is better. Please like the video, and I am the one and only Eagle Double T signing off. Goodbye.